Hello and welcome back, and today we're going to do a slightly different video. This is going to feel very YouTube 1.0, like me doing an unboxing, but it is actually more than that today. Because today I want to talk about ultimately a device that I believe might be my favourite NAS of 2026. Now, to put that into perspective, I'm recording this on the morning of December 31st, 2025 with a rotten cold, can you tell? And despite that, and despite the fact that in about 48 hours, I'm going to jump on a plane to go to Vegas, to go to CES, and see a whole host of new NAS solutions, some of which I've already heard about, some of which, by the way, are really going to shake up 2026. I'll say right now, despite all of that, when I'm on the plane, I'm going to be thinking about this. Because this, that I've known about for a year, is challenging a lot about what we think NAS can do. It's not cheap. It's knocking out, according to my notes, $1,599. So this is not a cheap box. But as we go through this in today's video, and again, when I come back, there will be a full, deeper review. I'm going to set this up and do some work on it on and off. This is a new portable NAS system. It's ultimately bridging the gap between a static NAS solution that we keep in our office and access remotely, or something we need to do a lot of that portable work, but also when we need sedentary and also when we need to take our data on the go. Bridging that gap between NAS and DAS. Mobile NAS devices, we talked about it quite a lot in 2025, but for me this is the pinnacle. I don't know how it gets better than this. To put that into perspective, it arrives with 6 M.2 NVMe slots inside. Now, that's not unusual. I think it would be fair to say that we've seen a lot of portable NAS devices running on M.2. M.2, of course, being very low power, being very portable and not as, not volatile, fragile as hard drives there, is understandable that you might be thinking SSDs are the right way forward. But notwithstanding the fact that it has 6 bays inside, 3 of them are Gen 4x4 speed, and 3 of them are Gen 4x2 speed. That's a huge amount of bandwidth afforded to those. There's also going to be those of you, rightly so, talking at the start of 2026, thinking, well, that's all fair and well, but have you seen the cost of SSD? Have you seen the cost of RAM? And you're absolutely right. This arrives with 16 gig of non-ECC DDR5, and it can be scaled up to 64 across those 2 slots. But I'll still say, nevertheless, this is not going to be a proposition to those that are thinking about affordability. But that said, the scalability of this does allow you to get a nice base amount of storage and RAM, again, 16 out the gate, and maybe scale up when prices aren't so cocoa for Cocoa Pops. Now, let's be honest, I've been very enthusiastic in this video thus far. This isn't even a review, and I've been very positive about a device that really I haven't even turned on for you guys. But I do want to talk about one area of concern and something I am, when I do the full review, I'm really going to monitor this device on, and that is to do with cooling. Because if we remove this top panel, and we will be coming back to this panel in just a moment, we can see the layout of those bays as discussed earlier, and you can see the Gen 4x4 slots right there. And you can see the memory there, and of course this is that cooling that's running all the way through the system. And indeed, if we angle it just right, you can see there at the top the cooling ventilation that's going to be running all the way through to that panel. And indeed, on the other side, there is that removable panel there to cover it for the ventilation there, and it's got a dust panel as well. But what I wanted to touch on is look at the proximity there, the space that we have got for those M.2s. And indeed, there are no heatsinks included with the kit that I could see, but moreover, this panel is plastic. That is a slight worry to me, that there's going to be a panel, and maybe I've got that the wrong way around, let's double check that's on right, that, although there's ventilation all the way around, I am wondering about the heat of those Gen 4x4 SSDs here over a plastic panel. Why wasn't this metal? Why didn't they use silicon pads against this and make that a metal panel there? I am curious, and that's notwithstanding when and let's remove that panel top once again, the fact that these are at different angles as well. So when the air is passing over these to, for the heat sinks to do their job and allow the heat to be dissipated into the air, these are at different angles. So don't worry, I will be looking at heat and temps on this device in operation, because having 3 4x4 SSDs here with the vents here is something I do think I'm going to really have to knuckle down on. And any other people that are watching this, by the way, if you are reviewing this yourselves, seriously, knuckle down on that. We need to talk about temps. But moving beyond the hot button issue that is SSDs and RAM, we can talk a little bit more about the rest of the internal architecture here. Inside is an Intel Ultra-Core Ultra 5 125H CPU. That's a 14-core processor with an Intel's own AI-assisted NPU on board and a 2.2 gigahertz integrated graphics for that CPU there. That is a lot to be building from there. Alongside that, based around the ports and connections to the device, not only do we have a couple of USB 4 connections there, you heard me, USB 4, we also have dual SD card slots, and on the other side, we have a 10 gigabit physical network connection there. Standard USB connectivity and HDMI out. Yes, you can HDMI directly from this. There is all the typical ports and connectivity you're going to love. It has Bluetooth connectivity. It has Wi-Fi connectivity, whether it is that you want to connect it to an existing Wi-Fi network or set up its own AP for your devices to communicate with it. It also arrives with a base level operating system running from a 32 gig internal eMMC SSD direct to the board, but crucially, the two factors that set this apart from most other NAS devices, and indeed, in some cases, every other mobile NAS, is one, it has a 3200 milliamp battery inside that lets you run this device without any power input. It arrives with a PSU already included inside the case, but you can run it off the battery. How long you run it for? Well, we'll have to wait and see for the review. But alongside that, it has that integrated screen there. This is, if we're going to be Billy Basic about this, it's a clientless header. It is a phone built into it. This allows you full system control, full file access and viewing. It's essentially an integrated screen into the device. It has two-factor authentication, it has administration control, and ultimately just allows you to remove the client overhead. So in your bag, when you're on the go, you're ready to back up your devices, slam it down, you grab your DGI, you stick in the memory card, automated backup operations. Anything you've done with your phone, you can run those backups, but crucially, you're doing the whole thing on the screen. That's what sets this apart for me. We've already looked at the UnifyDrive UT2 multiple times in 2025. I'm really intrigued by this proposition. It's not the cheapest, again. 1600 Nika is not small, and cooling is going to be my biggest hot button issue about this. Not only will it stay warm, but how much power draw there will be. Even if we scratch out the portability of this device, think of things like the Acer Store Flash Store Gen 2 that ran with that high-powered AMD processor, and they had a 6-bay version, not unlike this. That device wasn't portable, this is. But if you remove the portability off the table, and we talk about this device as a proposition from UnifyDrive themselves, one of the things I highlight, for example, is you can set the device up and attach a docking station. Now, a docking station here means a graphics card that we can feed in via USB connectivity into this device, and then boom, we can use it for enhanced AI LLM services, or if you're a bit more traditional like me, you could run virtual machines from this, which then can have GPU pass-through. Now, that allows me to not only have VMs I can access remotely in high-powered at a static area, but also take my VMs on the go. And I know what you're thinking, taking a VM on the go sounds a bit like a laptop. Why would you not just access it remotely? And you're right, I can. But this at least allows me to create the option to take stuff with me or not. Case in point, I can run this as a DAS if I choose. You can set this up in DAS mode, just like the Mini UT2, that allows me to directly interface into this device via USB and access my storage generally and locally. Or I can set it up for network to use Thunderbolt pass-through there. This thing has got so much potential to deliver on that either the review I'm going to make is going to be bittersweet AF, or it might just actually do it. Now, some of you are going to wonder why I've not turned this device on at any point. It's a portable NAS, right? Well, there's a couple of reasons for that. This device has been sent to me by UnifyDrive. They're not paying for the video, but of course they have supplied the hardware. That said, they are seeing this video and they will see the eventual review the same time as you have. I've already seen this device when I was in Shenzhen, China, and I already saw it at the start of 2025 during CES 2025. The reason I'm not turning it on is simply that I don't want you to try to buy this yet. I'm slightly worried that people will see this video and they will go out and buy this. The link is in the description if you'll learn more about some of the stuff I haven't covered or the specs, but wait until the review. Because, as I say, this thing has the potential to be the best NAS of 2026, and it's not even 2026. Because there's just so much promise here. There's so much that it is being offered by everyone in different degrees, and this in its wholly singular proposition. Now, I don't think you're going to be able to put TrueNAS on this. I think you obviously can, but if you do put TrueNAS on this, you will miss out on most of what it can do. How much of the capabilities, how much of the control, how much of the architecture is hardwired to that software, we'll have to wait and see. I think, personally, I don't think I could recommend something like this for those that want to go full DIY, but still, hold out because I will check and just see how much of this is usable with TrueNAS on board there. But at least for now, hold out for the review. I'm sure there will be other channels with these arriving soon. I'm really looking forward to seeing the proposition on this. I've already spoke to a few other much larger platforms than myself about this device to hear what they think about it. And I'm going to be straight with the results are mixed of what they think. I love it. And I think it has so much potential. But that's the key word there, potential. We need to see what happens next with this bad boy. But stay tuned for the full review of this, and obviously stick with us for our coverage of CES 2026. I cannot wait to tell you whether this thing delivers or not. But apart from that, I hope you had a lovely new year, everyone, and I'll see you on the next video.